Good morning, everyone. So my name's Alex, and I'm going to be talking about technology. And we've come leaps and bounds in the last 100 years in the way that our computers work. So we started with mechanical calculators back in the late 1800s. And then we had the first commercial computer in 1950 that took up an entire room. And we're all the way here to the MacBooks and iPhones that we have in our pockets today. But as technology has gotten smaller, new fields have opened up, like the smartphone field, for example. So if I can just get, you can just raise your hand, how many people here have a smartphone? Yeah, like an Android iPhone, yeah. So that's most of you. And as of February of last year, more than 2/3 of Americans have smartphones. And that's up from just 6.6% in about 2003. So that's huge. That field has exploded. But the next logical step is taking those phones out of our pockets and making them more accessible, maybe as a watch or as some other wearable device. But I think that before I delve into talking about wearable technology, I think it's important for us to understand what wearable technology is and what it isn't. So, Bluetooth headset glove. This is technically wearable technology. I mean, you wear it and you use it. And yet, there's a microphone in the pinky, a speaker in the thumb. And yeah, they look pretty dumb. I mean, I wouldn't wear those. And you can get them on eBay for like $30 if you really want to. But this isn't really what I'm going to be talking about. This isn't what wearable technology is. This isn't where we're going. This is more of a gadget. And maybe we can take a look at something more literal, wearable technology. So this was a device called Circadia 1.0. It was implanted into the arm of a man from Pittsburgh. And all it did was it monitored his temperature, his body temperature, and it sent it to his phone. And if he had a temperature maybe above 100, his phone would buzz and would tell him, maybe you're sick. You're probably not feeling it. So, actually, I will say that in this case, no doctor would even agree to put that in his body. So he had to have a friend cut him open and put it in. No anesthesia, nothing, just ice. And it also had a little light that lit up his tattoo. Okay. But this still really isn't the wearable technology I'm talking about. First of all, it's way too literal. But, I mean, this isn't really where we're headed anytime soon because technology just isn't small enough, isn't safe enough. Just in general, we're not here yet. This isn't where we're going in the next 20 years. But a perfect example of wearable technology would be something called the Fitbit. And I think a lot of people have heard of the Fitbit. I see it around the school all the time. And it keeps track of the time, how many steps you've taken, the calories you've burned, how active you've been. And that's why it's so successful, because it functions as a watch, a pedometer, and an alarm all in one. So I can come home from school, and maybe I want to go for a run. And I can go run for 10 minutes, and I'll keep track of how many steps I took, how many calories I burned, how many of those minutes I was really, truly active. And I can go home and take a nap, and it'll wake me up. So that's why the Fitbit is so successful, and it's definitely what I'm trying to talk about here. But, this is where we've been, and the big question is, where are we headed? Where are we going? And that's not something I can tell you for sure, because nobody really knows. Everyone has ideas. We don't know what ideas are going to take off. But what I can tell you is that the way that we interact with technology is changing the quickest. So one of the big things coming down the pipeline, it's in the works right now, is called Google Glass. And just out of interest, again, could you raise your hand if you've heard of Google Glass? Yeah? Okay, so that's basically almost everyone here. And it's been really big in the media. It's sort of been the point person of wearable technology. And of course people are so interested in it. I mean, it sort of makes science fiction a reality. It reminds us of things we see on Star Trek. And that's where we as people secretly want to go, go into the world of Star Trek and in the future where we have all these cool new technologies. But the press coverage hasn't been all that great. So Glass has, obviously, a battery pack, has a touchpad on the side, a prism in the front, some speakers, a microphone, but the key thing that is hurting Glass is the camera. Because originally, it was supposed to be a consumer device for you or I to wear. But it isn't really something you can wear to dinner with a family member or with a coworker, because there's always that camera watching you. And in the United States, we really like our privacy, so it's a bit weird to have something watching you at all times. At the same time, it does have some cool uses for the average person, like navigation. So you can put the glass on, and while you're driving, no more looking at the GPS, no more looking down at your phone. You could be on a bike, just overlays exactly where to go. But again, Glass costs $1,500. So, I mean, there's much better ways to spend your money as, students or even adults. So, glass has moved from being a consumer product for you or I to being an enterprise product, to being a product that is being used at work. So a company called Augmetics is putting glass into hospitals. It's a company in California. And in this use case, you put it on a surgeon. And that way the surgeon can always see patient's heartbeat, maybe monitor their breathing, blood pressure, all of that. And that's great and all. Another big use for it in hospitals has been putting it on just doctors that are seeing patients, maybe in the emergency room or somewhere else. And above each door, you have a QR code. And as the doctor walks in, the camera takes a picture of the QR code and pulls up all the information right away. And this has already saved at least one life, where a doctor said that she came in here and the patient was experiencing convulsions. And she was about to give that patient a shot of medicine. But she quickly glanced up and saw that that patient was allergic to that medicine. So she switched out for a new different kind of medicine, gave the shot, everyone was okay. Saved a life. So that's very good. Another place, another work environment is, in a big warehouse where they have lots of boxes. So right now, each box has to have a lot of stuff written on it. Where it's going, where it's coming from, lots of other information, but all that is there, and it can be confusing. It's not always written in the best handwriting. So instead, you can just put a QR code on each box and scan that box, and you have all the information right there. And then let's say you need to change a destination or a delivery date. Instead of having to go find the box and change the information, you can just update the database, and it's all done. So that's the gist of Google Glass. But again, $1,500, that's not something that we're going to be seeing at home. That's more of a workplace thing. But a big thing that's coming up for home and for school is called the leap function. So it looks like this. It's just this tiny little bar. Only costs $70. And, as I said, as our computers have changed, the way that we interact with them has changed just as much. So we went from a keyboard, which started back with our typewriters. We've got a mouse. We've got a touch screen, touch pad on our laptops. But really, what's next? I mean, right now, we already can just reach out and touch whatever we want on our screen. And Leap came to answer that question. So basically, it has two cameras that are pointing up at an angle, and it takes pictures of where your hands are. And using those pictures, it can figure out exactly where your hands are in the air. And that makes the air become your touch screen. You can reach out and interact with a virtual world. We can take a look at this demo here. So I can reach out, move my fingers, bring a second hand in, a third hand, I can't, I would, or even four hands. But what can I do with that? Let's take a look at this. So now I have a 3D model here. And I can just look at it, rotate, look around. And it's very comfortable for me because this is how I like to interact. I can also point at stuff and have it give me their names. But a bit cooler, let's say, I want to make the heart transparent, see what's inside. But now I'm sort of wondering, how does the heart work? How does it pump blood? I can see exactly how the heart works. So it's very natural for me too, because this is how we're used to interacting with things in 3D space. We're 3D creatures. So that's Leap. And again, it's only $70. And there's different kinds of learners. People learn in different ways. And there's some people that like to read things. There's some people that like to hear things. There's something called tactile learning. So how many people in here, you guys know what tactile learning is? You like to touch things, interact with things. How many people here would consider themselves tactile learners? Yeah, that's a lot of people because you're really engaged when you're actually interacting with the object. So imagine if you have Leap in your biology class. And you can examine body parts like that. Maybe you're going to dissect a frog, and you can take a look at what each of the organs looks like, just like that, and see how it functions in 3D space. And also, Leap is starting to be built into laptops now. So this is a promo that HP put out for its new laptop. Maybe go right in. So you can see, I showed you how you can use it in the classroom, but it's not really just a classroom tool. It's also something you can use at home to interact with your computer. Maybe you like to draw. That's awesome to be able to reach out and draw. Maybe you like to sculpt. You can sculpt any material as many times as you want. You don't need to buy anything. You just reach out and sculpt. Or let's say you're an engineer and you're working with parts. Again, 3D space is very comfortable for us because that's what we're used to. So you can reach out and work with parts. Let's say you're a doctor. And I, Dr. Krentsel, and I come in and see my patient, Maria. And Maria may be sick with the flu. And I need to listen to her breathing, and I need to look down her throat, and I'm in close contact with her. So maybe I'll tell her she has the flu, but when I walk out that door, the doctor needs to write down what happened. They go to the computer, and they type in that I told Maria that she has the flu, I've given her a prescription, we're meeting again in 2 weeks. And then I'm off to see a new patient, because I'm very busy, I'm a doctor. But the issue with that is that the next person, there's a couple of doctors and nurses there, and the next doctor to come along is going to use that same computer that I just used. And so these germs are going to get passed along. And yes, sometimes doctors will wash their hands oftentimes, but they're very busy, and they're going to be looking to get to the next patient to keep going. And so if you have leap instead of a keyboard there, in 3D space, there's no touching, no germs are passed. So, and it's a serious problem. There's over 100,000 deaths every year, and $30 billion spent on preventable diseases contracted in the hospital. So imagine you're in the classroom, and your manual has a great sign language class. You could reach out and sign with the computer because it now can see your hands and really track where they are and teach you how to do it. Or I'm in YPass manual. We have a conducting class. So you could reach out and conduct an orchestra right in front of your computer. So the fun thing I do want to talk about in terms of wearables is something called Maya. And it's this bracelet, this sort of bracelet thing that keeps track of where all your tendons are. So when you reach out and maybe squeeze your fist or move your fingers, the tendons in your arms move. That's how your hand works. So it just watches for those tendons, and using the location of those tendons, you can figure out exactly what your hand is doing. This is coming. This is where we're going. But the things I've talked about feel pretty far away because Maya, that's up from Canada, and Google Glass, obviously Google in California. But I think that's something that we don't realize, and something that our speakers mentioned a little bit, is that all of this is going on here in Louisville, right under our noses, and we're really oftentimes not really aware of what's going on. So in Louisville, we had a company called Interact. It was chosen by Google to be an official Glassdoor partner. So that's one of 10 in the world, which is a huge deal because every other company is in California, New York, or outside of the country. So that sort of really puts us on the map in terms of innovation. We have Yum here, Taco Bell here. So Google Glass, there's projects going on between the Interact and Taco Bell to bring Google Glass into the restaurants, to train employees to make new food. It's hands-free. You can see all the instructions right on the screen. Leap is being used in hospitals. First, you can record the hand movements of surgeons for learning purposes. We can also train interns and nurses to maybe wrap bandages or interact with technology so that they can get sort of a head start. Their first time isn't really their first time. Leap is being combined with Oculus, which I'm sure a bunch of people have heard, but I just don't have time to talk about. Puts you in virtual reality space, so you can reach out and interact with that virtual reality. And this one I think is the coolest. Kentucky Space is actually partnered with a company here in Mobile Interact, and they're going to be taking glass up to the space station to put on the astronauts to use. But, so what? These things seem pretty cool, and yeah, they're coming, and you're probably going to see Leap sometime in the future in your computer. But why is this so important? And I want to say it's important because things are speeding up so quickly. An expert from 10 years ago would be lost in the world of today in technology. And that's the beauty of technology, because it's moving so quickly. So we have all high schoolers here. How many people don't know what they're going to do in college yet? Yeah. It's really too early to decide. But STEM, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of STEM. And those fields are taking off. We have a huge deficit of engineers. And even a high schooler like me can be working on this technology. And in fact, I am. So I'm an intern at Interact. And I'm working on the project that's being taken up to the space station. And I'm working with Leap, and I'm doing all this stuff at work. And I'm not saying that to say, look at me and look at what I'm doing, be impressed. I'm saying, look at you and look at what you can be doing. Because I took an introduction to programming class last year. And I'm already getting to work on this cool stuff. So get involved. Take an introduction to programming class. Talk to the programming teacher at your school. Maybe if you don't have one, talk to your counselor, talk to your principal, and ask them to get involved. I'd say the best way is to look online. So the internet was created by programmers. There's lots of resources. Code Academy, Coursera, Code School, Treehouse. It's all out there. We need more engineers for a better future. This is where it's at. Thank you. Alright, so this is actually an iPad. An iPad. I will not throw it. 81. Who has 81?
You're a happy human.
Anybody? 81? Okay. Does anyone have this on the service with number 81 on it? That's close. Not it. Okay. I'll take it. All right.
81.
How about the number 75?
81? 81? Oh, you want that? Okay.
What about the number 75?
Okay, 75?
No one seems 81.
264. 47. And now, before Alex leaves, we got a question for him from the students. So, Alex, we typically associate advanced technological devices in video and Leap as something that will be commonly used in widespread far in the future. However, when do you see the application of these products to the general public, and where do you see them applied in education?
Well, they're here now. I mean, I'm holding up Leap right now, and it's still pre-ordered, so it's still $70, but they're looking to get the price down. So it really just needs people to write stuff for it, to bring it into the classroom, for our principals and for our teachers to get this technology into the classroom